Welcome to Cloud Config 101. Today we're going to be talking about where in the world are you building. Regardless of what public cloud provider you're going to be using in the future or you're using now, fundamentally they sit in a data center somewhere in the world. If we look at AWS, Azure and Google Cloud Platform, you've got over 72 global regions and over 200 availability zones for your data to be stored and your workloads to run. Realistically, where your data sits can have a huge implication on your cyber insurance, your data residency requirements, and most importantly, the loyalty of your customers and business partners to make sure you're adhering to best practices and where you offer your services out of. A frequent issue we see is someone who's new to cloud being tasked with building an EC2 instance on AWS and not knowing where it's physically located and understanding the different settings and configurations behind the scenes they need to get right before deploying the server live. To paint a scenario for this, we have an employee called John. John has been tasked with building an EC2 instance to host their web server, which is going to be used for the e-commerce company's online store. The main reason and driver behind this is because last year during Black Friday and the festive period and sales, they realized they had too much traffic hitting their own on-premise servers, so they are in the process of moving to AWS to be able to use the auto-scaling feature and make sure they have really high customer success. As you can see, John is now building out the EC2 instance. He's gone through using the native configuration wizard. He's selected everything that needs to be done correctly. And by scoping out the size beforehand, he knows exactly what instance type he needs. And now the server is live. To make it even easier, the company's key pair is set up globally, so it will take him under 60 seconds to provision the server and be ready or have an EC2 instance ready to build on top of and build their online store. After completing all of this work, John then approaches his manager to have a check on what he's built before they go live. And his manager notices one significant issue. He's not built the server in the UK. They're a UK-based company. They have UK-based cyber insurance, and they also have customer agreements that anything they host and run online is going to be centralized in the UK. So how has this happened? From the drop-down list, what he hasn't noticed when he's building is that he can choose one of any of the availability zones and regions that AWS offer to build his environment. Not to worry, he doesn't need to bring everything down because there's ways and means of replicating and moving that instance across to a new area. But if his manager hadn't come in and looked at it, it could have caused some significant issues. If we look at payment card information, that would have been a problem because that'd be hosted outside of the UK. If we look at data residency of any of the transactional information, that would have been hosted outside of the UK. And we're not just looking at the US, we're looking anywhere in the global remit of a public cloud provider. Looking at this again, we can see how configuration issues are one of the biggest threats to cloud security, because by missing one setting or pressing the wrong button one way, it can cause a drastic impact into all of your downstream legality and infrastructures, but also cause even more issues for searching and fault finding, because had this been handed over to the next employee, they would never been able to find the online store. They'd never been able to find the server if they were looking in the UK and not know how it was hosted without doing some serious research and intelligence into the environment. All in all, this wasn't a terrible day at the office for John. His manager was able to find it, search, and fix the problem that they caused. But fundamentally, this was one isolated instance. How many times could this have been done in other parts of the company? Do we really have visibility over where our data is located, where our workloads are located, and what we're going to do to find out more about them? As a best practice, the number one thing you should do is run a full inventory to find out where your assets are located. Are they all in the UK? Are they in other areas and locations they're required to be held in? Number two, make sure that all of your locations and your workloads comply with your cyber insurance and any legalities associated with your company or the service you're offering to your downstream customers and clients. And finally, when you have built that environment, make sure you run a posture assessment so that every other configuration setting as part of the shared responsibility model is being adhered to and is being secured correctly.